So, a very important murder has taken place in American politics recently. It was the murder of Charlie Kirk. I was never a fan of Charlie Kirk. I believe some of the things he said in his life may have hurt my family members and the perception that a lot of Americans have of people of my ilk, right? Didn't think he deserved to be assassinated. And matter of fact, I think in martyrdom, it serves his purpose more. But at the end of the day, he was murdered in front of his family, and that's kind of fucked up. So after he was assassinated, I won't say mass assassinated, he wasn't a political figure. I'll say he was murdered. After he was murdered in front of a crowd of thousands, there was a rush to blame. They were so quick to blame, and I think that's a result of our current political atmosphere. The thoughts of it being Democrats immediately crossed everybody's stream. In their mind, who else would do this? They couldn't conceive the idea of the murder coming from their side of the house. And they've had him in custody for weeks now, and we don't know his exact ideology. We have some emails. We have what his grandmother is saying. It's hearsay, but for some reason, the rush to judgment was followed by a pause. I think the pause should have came first, right? I believe the Democrats really believe that it was a Democrat who had done it. I know the right believe that, and they're on camera stating it hours after the murder, and they were upset, so upset that they wanted to go to historically black colleges and do some harm. They know that if you harm historically black colleges, that will hurt Democrats. I don't see how the two things are linked, because there are plenty of black conservatives, more black conservatives now than at any point in time in my entire life. I think that's just a good way to alienate some of your followers. It's a small percentage, but it's a important percentage. So how do we get here? How do we get here to where somebody's murdered and it is more important to find out why they did it than it is to find out who did it? A lot of people put this squarely in the lap of Barack Obama, which seems absurd that the person who was president, his presidency ended in 2016, I believe, is responsible for a murder that happened in 2025. There's been movements and counter movements since he's been president. When he became president, the large movement was the Tea Party. The Tea Party was anti-taxes. You pay no taxes. We need to pay back all of our debts. They're really tough, and they put a stranglehold on their party to prevent them from supporting this president in any way, shape, or form. And he bypassed that with executive orders, right? He passed more executive orders than the previous president, who in turn, the following president, President Trump, trumped him, for lack of a better pun, by signing more executive orders. Then Biden came in, more executive orders, and then Trump came in and signed more executive orders than the last 5 presidents combined. This is how it's done. You no longer convince your constituents. You no longer go in and talk to people on the other side of the aisle. The most amazing thing is Trump has the presidency. He has the Senate, the House, Congress is all his, the Supreme Court, it's all his, and yet he still uses executive orders. Why? Because there is wrangling involved. Anytime you take anything to Congress, it has to get approval. There's deals made, and you find out sometimes American people don't want something. There are some who do, and there are some who don't. And that's what the politics, that's why the politicians, they are to politic. They're to find out why, how, and when. And Congress ultimately holds the purse. Well, it used to hold the purse. Now, the murder of Charlie Kirk was an attack on free speech. Let's not pretend that. He was killed because he had beliefs, and they weren't popular beliefs. That's why he was killed. But in retaliation, instead of making the attempt to come together, they automatically went on attack, trying to cancel the free speech of others. It's difficult to ascertain how a free speech champion like Charlie Kirk can be used to silence others. Obviously, there are jokes and stuff made in bad taste. This goes way back to before Trayvon Martin. The other side has always been more calloused when, young black people die. It's been a running joke. But the people who use the term snowflake the most are the biggest snowflakes. They don't like to be joked about. They don't like to be disrespected. Their disrespect is tantamount to a betrayal of the country. You talk bad about the president, now it's treason. But before, it was unpatriotic to not talk bad about the president. And you got to understand, the party of I didn't vote would be the largest political party in America. So whenever somebody tells you half the country voted for this, that is not true. That is definitely not true. You could say a quarter. You could say 33%. I'll give you a third. But 70 million, 72 million voted for and 71 against. That's not half the country. It's a country of 360 million now. And 260 million are eligible to vote. So, it's ridiculous to even imply that half the country voted for this. It's like three people at a dinner table trying to decide what they want to eat. And if you don't decide, you get what 1/3 of the people at the table decide they want to eat. And they want lentils. You don't want lentils, but you didn't do enough to prevent lentils being served. So the whole Charlie Kirk situation, the problem I have with it was my lack of empathy was very offensive to a lot of people. That weekend in Chicago, 20 people were murdered, right? I don't know any of their names. I don't know why they were murdered. And it's water off my back because I'm callous to it. There were children murdered in a school on the same day. A killer went in there and murdered children. I don't know the name of school. I don't know the names of any of the victims. I callously kept myself away from it because it hurts so much. But that's not what set people off. What set people off was my indifference towards Charlie Kirk's murder. I was unfriended by 5 people. Unfriended. Mind you, I said nothing offensive. I did post some of his words. And some of his words were empathy, yada, yada, yada. His stance basically saying empathy can be weaponized, especially after a shooting. Here we are. And I'm unempathetic in his honor. And people really unfriended me, really took the time to be like, hey, man, that's too much. These aren't words that I said. These are words that he used. He chose to post these words. And by honoring him because he's a free speech warrior, limiting my free speech is not honoring him at all. Going after late night hosts because they didn't agree with his position is not honoring him at all. And then to criticize the president's lack of empathy and lose your show, that's crazy. That's crazy. So tell me what you think. Am I bugging? Let me know in the comments below.